Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the LogiMAT Expert Forum, the summit meeting, leading people on opportunities and risks for intralogistics. My name is Matthias Pieringer. I'm the editor-in-chief of Logistics Today in the Hus Verlag, and I can guide you through the next 50 minutes as a facilitator. Yes, recently, the Association of Conveyor Technology and Intralogistics, the VDMA, published the figures for 2022. The manufacturers of conveyor technology and intralogistics in Germany have an estimated production volume, or had it, of 23.7 billion euros in 2022. That's a growth of roughly 2%. And it's a bit less than what they had forecast at the beginning of 2022. Intralogistics is affected by various crises as the general economy, and the impacts of current crises, such as the war in Ukraine, had a heavy impact on the shoulders of both the providers and the customer companies. At the same time, intralogistics is a pillar that supports the processes in industry, trade, and services so that these processes can be implemented efficiently. Today, given this background of the different crises that we see, we want to discuss about the situation of intralogistics, and together with you, we would like to find out what opportunities and challenges result for intralogistics. And LogiMAT is the best place to do this. I would now like to introduce the guests of the speakers from industry and academia. We will be starting discussing these questions in a couple minutes. To my right, Steffen Bersch. He is CEO of the SSI Schäfer Group. Large round of applause for Mr. Bersch. I would also like to welcome on the stage Christian Erlach. He is a member of the board of sales, the Jung Heinrich AG. Welcome. I would also like to welcome representative from academia, Professor Dr. Johannes Fottner. He is at the chair for conveyor technology, material flows and logistics of the Technical University of Munich. Welcome, Professor Fottner. I would also like to welcome Gerald Hofer, who is the CEO of Knapp AG. Welcome, Mr. Hofer. And last but not least, it is a great honor to have on stage Andreas Krinninger. He is a member of the board of the Kion Group AG, President Kion Industrial Trucks and Services, EMEA. Welcome, Mr. Krinninger. As I already said, we have various challenges and lots of crises. The first question I would like to address to Mr. Bersch. If you look at all the facts from your point of view, are there any political or other obstacles to intralogistics at the moment? Well, thanks a lot for the question. I hope you can all hear me. Are obstacles put in our way? I would probably rephrase it. In our industry, we are in the center of a very dynamic development. I believe that intralogistics is one of the central value-adding aspects of industry at the moment, whatever is happening, especially with regards to e-commerce and the development in trade. Intralogistics plays an important role here. I believe it would be wrong to say that people put obstacles in our way, but as a company, or you could only wish for the bureaucracy to be as low as possible so that you just let the companies operate. And I believe that these topics need to be addressed, such as the supply chain compliance legislation and many administrative hurdles. And in total, this causes a lot of administrative work to be done. And this is in a phase which is very difficult at the moment, and there's a huge challenge for everyone. When we had obstacles, but a bit less bureaucracy would be useful. So less bureaucracy would be helpful. What do you believe, Mr. Erlach? I believe that here we have small rocks rather, not huge obstacles, but what's happening on the macroeconomic level, the Ukraine war, then the China-US war, trade war, these are issues that make life much harder. They're tangible, have a massive impact on supply chains, and we're missing optimism among our consumers. And of course, we can only have a minimum impact on that from Germany, but these are realities which are really harsh. These are crises, an important point. Mr. Fottner, from the view of the researchers, I mean, you deal a lot with research in intralogistics and innovation, and how innovation can be brought into practice. What do you believe? Do we currently have any obstacles that we need to take out of the way for intralogistics? Well, I can only agree with what my previous speakers have said. We in academia, well, our most important asset is international collaboration. We have to have an exchange. And in intralogistics, we have a huge advantage, which is that the industry, research, and science are quite ahead of everything. In the past few years, we have launched many products seen many products from the Asian area. Traditionally, the German-speaking area, I have to be really careful with so many Austrians around. So the German-speaking area is leading in this domain, as we can see at the trade fair as well. So this exchange is extremely important for scientists, and it's really limited at the moment, and you keep thinking about it. Do I have to travel to China? Yes, we do, because there is a difference between the political situation and an exchange among industrial companies, scientists, and the population. We have to really make a distinction here. And we need to, if we realize that, then these obstacles are not as big. The geopolitical obstacles, of course, are huge at the moment. So large geopolitical obstacles, and an exchange is wished for between different societies. I would like to ask Mr. Hofer the initial question I asked. What do you think is the situation at the moment? Are there any obstacles that are in the way of intralogistics in the business world? Yes, I guess we experienced it all. We first have problems when supply chains don't work. There are various aspects to this. The big economic blocks having fights can trigger this time and again. We should have solutions to that, but the big economic issues cannot be resolved by us. So that's definitely one of the big issues, and it's not over. The supply chains are still very volatile. The sanctions are still there, and they can always be expanded. And you see it that what happens in Europe when the US and China are in conflict. And if there are too little containers in China, then we have problems in supply in Europe. That is a very sensitive topic. And all these hidden trade obstacles, they are regulated by specific country-specific regulations, and they're a huge problem. And for everyone working at the international level, it is taxation as well. Where do you pay your taxes? I mean, you have to take care of this yourselves and have to switch between the tax authorities in Germany, Austria, and so on. And so the companies are basically left with these topics. They have to take care of them themselves. And another aspect is that sustainability needs to be put to an international level. We really welcome it that the European Union has always wants to be leading here. We need probably another financial statement on the basis of sustainability. We welcome this, but we don't welcome the fact that it applies to companies having a location in Europe. It should apply to all companies supplying to the European market. Otherwise, it's just an economic disadvantage for European companies.
Well, many important points that you have mentioned, Mr. Hofer. And coming back to my initial question to Mr. Grinninger to round off the picture. So, Mr. Grinninger, what do you think? What are the obstacles that you want to see gone? Well, first of all, I think we can say that we all have a strong footprint in Germany and we would like to keep it that way. So we have to make sure that we remain an attractive location. And we have to do that together with the political field so that the industrial location remains competitive and attractive. And I think it's not that obstacles are put into a way on purpose, but decisions are taken, transition to green energy, problems in the education policy, which lead to our location not becoming more attractive. When I take a look at industrial politics, when I take a look at our dependency from China, in particular when it comes to electronic component and lithium, I would like to see a closer cooperation and think about how individual industrial segments and capabilities can be brought back to Germany or the European market. Well, there are different points that we have already mentioned in the past few weeks and months. Well, it was not only the material prices that increased, but it was also the questions of energy supply that came up, the energy prices. And I'm sure you all of know that when you take a look at your own invoices. So they have increased. And how do you assess that? What do you think these material and energy prices for the field of intralogistics? What's the impact on your company, and what do you do in order to make sure that you are always able to deliver? I would like to ask Mr. Erlach. Yes, of course. I think there are two dimensions to that. There are the increasing prices, and then there is the issue of availability. So we talked about the issue with the supply chains. I think this is something that is going to change our behavior. So early on, we have set up a safety stock, but this was really important to make sure we can keep our production. And you usually don't buy from suppliers, but spot markets. So buying electronic components on spot markets, you know what surcharges are. It's really huge. We talk about a factor of more than 100. So this is really an extreme burden. And against this background, it was really important to make precautions, and this is still the case. In certain areas it has improved, in others it has deteriorated. What's quite alarming is that there are weaknesses among suppliers, there are insolvencies, bankruptcies. These are all topics that are really difficult. So this all comes because of the material costs, the energy costs, which are really, really difficult. Professor Fortner, you are not working for a manufacturing country in the field of intralogistics, but you also follow the market closely. So what would you say? What would you tell the companies in order to make sure that you're always able to deliver under the preconditions mentioned? Well, I think there are two things that I think are reason for concern. One is to keep everything the way we've always done it, and secondly, to do everything completely different. This is a sentence which I also tried to say a couple of times in 2020. We should not forget that we did everything wrong in the last 30 years regarding supply chains. No, for 30 years we've been able to work under lab conditions. We were living in a rather free world. There were no major crises that limited us, and we had rather free markets. And in 2014, there were the first signs of a change. We have, and now I have to criticize the scientific field and the industry, our optimization factors were mainly in safety stocks, and this was a wrong translation of lean management, saying no stock is good stock. So we didn't have any reserves in this um, well-defined system. So why are the supply chains under so much stress at the moment? Well, this concept has become difficult. So to be resilient, we don't have to turn everything upside down. We don't have to turn around all the effects of globalization. This would, I think, lead to the collapse of the global economy. But we have to come up with reasonable concepts and reasonable stocks, and maybe some additional concepts for special situations. And with that, we stabilize the situation. So the truth, as always, is somewhere in the middle. Thank you very much, Professor. Mr. Bash, you have just heard it. And I would like to ask you the question, when you take a look at energy and material prices, and what's this impact on the Schäfer Group, and what have you done, what are you doing in order to make sure that you're able to deliver? So what the professor just said, is that a good piece of advice? I can only agree with what Mr. Erlach just said. I think when we take a look at the ability to deliver, we got things from the spot markets, and we have increased our internal stock in order to be able to deliver. But of course, this is not a solution. And to come back to that, I believe that the supply chains in the past few years were, under sort of lab conditions, under static conditions, and all sorts of disruptions in the supply chain led to problems. And I think this means for us as a company that we have to be aware of the fact that this might happen. So the next crisis is right on our doorstep, and I think this is something that we learned in the last 3 or 4 years. And the companies have to make sure that they are well equipped to react to these situations of crisis adequately. And I think this is the message that we all should keep in mind. And with regard to energy prices, I would say it really depends to what extent the energy price or the energy costs play a role for each and every individual company. Some are more affected, others less affected. So what the government has done, I think, is quite helpful. And I think this is also an important point, pointing to the fact that in the collective bargaining negotiations that have been concluded, for example, with the trade union IG Metall for the metal workers, um, this is something which provides support for the employees, because on the one hand, we have to focus on our situation as companies, but we also have to make sure that our employees can bear the consequences of what's going on at the moment. Okay, so reasonable approaches in Germany. Mr. Hofer, so you're mainly, well, in Austria, but I would also like to ask you, what do you do with energy material prices, and what about the ability to deliver? Well, regarding energy prices, I can say that we also have production sites in Germany, also, of course, in Austria and in other areas. We were quite fortunate because we have long-term contracts, and we are not one of the companies that needs a lot of energy. And with that, we could keep the consequences to a minimum. Where it really affects us is that it really led to an increase in inflation, so the increase of all sorts of prices. And the criticism here is that we should react faster. So if we were able to decouple the energy price from the gas price, we wouldn't have this um, um, inflation. So that was really a mistake. Mr. Putin dictated our energy price. This was not a good thing. Now we have to live with it. And now the opposite is happening. So the energy prices are going down. And I hope that the cause of inflation is going to change. And I hope and assume that this is going to become better now. And material cost is one aspect, of course. We want to make sure that our jobs are very attractive, also with regard to remuneration. So companies try to come up with good collective agreements. And the question always is what is suitable for the market. We are competing, but we're also in the happy position to say that for us it means that many have to ask themselves how they can do their job with less employees. So there is not a disadvantage that doesn't also include an advantage or opportunity. I think supply chains are a bit of an issue. I think the prices will go back to normal. Mr. Krenninger, what do you think about the current situation regarding material and energy prices? And what about the ability to deliver in your company? Well, coming back to the ability to deliver first, I think what we experienced in the last 2 to 3 years with this decrease of demand in the COVID time and then the increase against the bullwhip effect. So this is quite interesting from the academic point of view, from industrial point of view, it was quite challenging. So what do you do? A supply chain, of course, more vulnerable the longer it is. So we try to apply a more regional approach. This is also what we tell our customers. Information flow should be better, so to connect the customers or the suppliers better, and also to come up with new sources to become more flexible. And this is the approach that we have decided on, and this is what we also do for intralogistics.
Do you see an energy price cap as helpful for your production in Germany? Is it a helpful tool? Well, it gives us a short-term relief, but at the end of the day, we transfer the problem to the society, so it's not a permanent solution. We have to create structural measures that let energy remain competitive and available. So we have to make sure that as a company we find methods on saving energy by investing in more energy efficient systems, having heat recovery systems and so on. But what we offer our customers, the solutions also need to be really energy efficient, but also offering them solutions that help them to avoid peaks in consumption. So solutions that help them to flatten these peaks by intelligent energy management and also help them to intelligently forecasting energy demand and then purchasing them cheaply on the energy market. So solutions we use for ourselves, but that we also offer to our customers so they can manage their investments better. But in general, politics needs to make the preconditions to have this energy remain competitive. Mr. Hofer, from the view of the Knapp AG, what is your opinion of the energy price caps? Are they effective tools? Well, I'm from Austria, as you already mentioned, and a lot of money has been subsidized in one-off campaigns, but I believe the problem gets bigger from that. What I said before, the principle should have been changed because the topic wasn't really aligned. One-off payments help, but it would have been much better if the average German or Austrian wouldn't have paid that at all. And when we talk about one-off aids, then it means that every one of us paid for that because the state can only pay for what it got from us. So I hope that these interventions in the market, similar as to Austria, for example, keeping up short-term labor concepts, even though we have a lack of skilled workers, these are state interventions that damage more than they do well. Your estimate on the energy price cap for production, I believe that in the short term, when during the phase where the war started and the prices went through the ceiling, it helped, but it cannot be a permanent solution. Because every kind of over-regulation or every kind of intervention from the state side into markets is not suitable for promoting the free action of forces in the market. And in the end, these developments also drive innovations, and we don't want to prevent that with political campaigns or actions. So in the short term, it was good, but I don't believe in these concepts on a long-term basis. So energy-saving production or more energy-saving machine launch, that that's much better. Yes, because it triggers technological developments, different types of energy use, different types of managing energy, and I think we should really set on that. So freedom of the actions of forces in the market and less regulation from the state side. Mr. Erlach, free play of the forces in the market. Well, we the energy price cap only has minimum use, and I don't believe it really makes sense. Because as you said, someone else will pay the bill, and it's all of us as taxpayers. And that's the solution. I mean, the energy price has another customer factor because we have more that's being done in renewable energies that wouldn't have been done otherwise. So that's the positive outcome of it. Yes, things are happening. I mean, a lot is going on. And that's also an opportunity where Europe can work out a pole position and really use the opportunity. It also has some good aspects. Mr. Professor Fottner, does everyone have a too negative image of this? No, I believe that these responses were quite positive, and I believe that the core statement was also made by my colleague to my right. We have to intelligently make use of technologies. So if energy is always available at any time and at the same price, will always end in undisciplined behavior. But if we learn looking into efficiency and designing smart processes, then we will have a system where the different weather conditions, the sunshine, whatever, can be brought into our work processes. As far as the price cap is concerned, it's more of a psychological topic. Just pointing out, even if something very disruptive happens, you're not alone, we're supporting you. It's a clear piece of wisdom. Of course, we're all paying for that. Where is the money coming from? But I believe that in our area of industry, we are predestined for promoting efficiency increases and response rates, and through an intelligent connection of energy and process, we can increase the overall efficiency. So boosting efficiency, using opportunities for new innovations and new technologies. So dear audience, if you want to chime in this discussion round, just give us a sign, a show of hand. We have enough microphones we can pass to you so you can make comments or ask questions. Of course, you don't always have the chance to have this agglomerated expertise here on stage, so please take use of the opportunity and chime in. Yes, we saw that maybe we shouldn't have such a negative outlook on everything and rather see the opportunities. We can say that we are living in a time of various crises. We already talked about that: material bottlenecks, energy price increases, disrupted supply chains, and a lack in skilled workers. But if you look at the overall picture, there are companies in intralogistics having very good figures, presenting very good figures. What is your estimate? What's the position of intralogistics? You mean with Schäfer or in general? No, for the overall market. I guess in total, we have a very big dynamics, and I mean the VDI figures show that. The growth from 2022 is a little bit more moderate than in the years before that. But in total, if we believe the common market analysis, depending on what study you look into, from 10 to 15% per year is a solid number. Now, we had a slight dip in 2022, and this might have another impact on 2023. But in total, I can say that especially for the area of automation logistics, but also for intralogistics as such, we can talk of very good growth perspectives, especially for those companies that are focusing on automation, robotics, and software solutions. So I believe we're in a good position here and can respond to this market growth and accompany it. Mr. Erlach, what is your take on the overall situation and what's your estimate according to your own company?
Well, I think it is quite exciting from the perspective of the market. In 2022, we had new records, turnover, EBIT, so everything is okay. And also the start this year, the first quarter was quite good, so we are not concerned. Let's wait and see how this continues. So I think that the market in intralogistics is quite strong and stable, and automation is surely the growth field now. So there are lots of opportunities. Okay, so this is what you said, Mr. Erlach. What about you, Mr. Krenninger? Everything good? What's your viewpoint on intralogistics? We heard about all these different crises. We heard about companies that have very good figures. So what's your take? Well, first of all, I think we should be aware of the fact that crises are quite stressful, but they also offer opportunities, the change in supply chains, regionalization of supply chain, better material flow. So this is what we stand for. This is what we're here for. So these are actually things that really support our business. The growth figures and expectations, I can only come back to what my colleague Mr. Bash said. So we assume two-digit growth rates in automation, probably digitization even 30%, manual forklifts probably 4 to 5%. We can probably not assume that it's going to be as stable as in the last 20 years. So I would say volatility is probably going to increase, but it is really our task to manage that. And I think this really is what we do. We support our customers, and regarding our company, well, last week we positively surprised the capital market, so I think everything is okay. Okay, everything's okay. That's good to know. Mr. Hofer, the same question to you. Well, many things have already been said, and I think the mega trends are in our favor when it comes to, for example, to sustainability. So we save space, we increase efficiency, we stabilize supply chains. So I think in the long term we are in the right area. We have seen enormous growth rates in the course of the last few years. Yeah, maybe it has become a bit less less increasing. We see it's still quite positive. We cannot complain, and we can also see that the number of inquiries coming in is well stable. Of course, we all know that from the economic forecast. If somebody tells you today 2.5% growth rate is really great, and another one says 1.5%, and we are all going to starve to death, well, this is not exactly true. The way it's always written, it's not just only black and white. So I would say that the whole industry, as you just said, is the industry of the future. In order to keep our wealth and our prosperity, we are probably going to work less with less employees. When we take a look at the percentage compared to the overall population, and we have to keep up our productivity with a higher level of automation and efficiency, and this is precisely the companies and the scientific field that is called upon to do that. So I believe we don't have to worry in the long term. Professor Fottner, I think this was a good point regarding the scientific field. So we're sort of, handing out homework. No, not really homework, but what sort of homework should the intralogistics field do from your perspective for the future? Well, first of all, the good news is that I believe intralogistics has embarked on the right path. There's one thing that I think we understood. If we looked at slides from earlier LogiMAT trade fairs, we always had this discussion, for example, AutoStore and another competing system. I think we have really understood that our most important point is our diversity. We have so many different technologies, and it's not about deciding whether we turn left or right. There are so many customers, and they have all sorts of different systems that they use in one environment in order to be able to deliver to their customers in the ideal way. So what are the advantages? Well, the year 2020 has made it aware to people that logistics exists at all, because it didn't work for a short period of time, and surprisingly fast we've been able to handle the requirements of e-commerce, this dramatic increase. So I think if we take a look at our homework, I believe the first homework would be not to try to live between 0 and 1 and to distinguish between wrong and right. So what we are doing on a daily basis means that we try to find the best solution for a particular case. There are enormous homeworks ahead of us if we take a look at the opportunities. Circular economy, for example, without an existing logistics system, and by the way, not only extra logistics but also intralogistics, it's never going to work. And this is not a question that we're going to implement that. So there is huge homework ahead of us to prepare for that. These speed of growth and change that we are experiencing. And when I take a look around to my colleagues and to the audience, I think we are well equipped. Well, one big topic, also some sort of homework that needs to be done, is something that was mentioned here at LogiMAT several times, the lack of skilled workers. This is about customer companies, but as well you with your companies. I'm sure you're also affected. So concerning the shortage of skilled workers, how are you affected in your companies, and how does the lack of skilled workers impact your business, your solutions, the products that you offer? And Mr. Krinninger, the question first goes to you. Well, of course, there are areas that show quite a bit of a growth, like service technicians or automation. This is where we can see that the market is becoming smaller. So we say, okay, on the one hand, we have to make sure that we train people. Secondly, we have to optimize processes. And thirdly, automation. So this is what we're doing in our company, and this is what we help our customers do. And as an employer, we try to make sure that we are attractive, offer attractive jobs, that people like to work for us and are able to do further training and so on and stay with us. This is quite stressful, but it is worthwhile. And for us as a company, this is a challenge. But I think it also offers the possibility with our product range, digitization, automation, we can increase efficiency, and this now offers opportunity for intralogistics, the handling industry. We can create added value for our customers. So the necessity also leads to new business opportunities. Mr. Bash, what do you think? Well, of course, we are also affected by the shortage of skilled workers. There is a strong competition in the market when it comes to staff. There are less people leaving the universities, and I looked at the figures for 2000, 2010 and 2000, and we can see that there is a decrease, and of course all the companies are fighting with that. There is a need for more employees, and there are less employees on the market. And I believe that we have to get accustomed to the fact that we are in the secondary part of the gross added value business, so that those we have to make sure that our companies are attractive, and so not really to focus so much on the service industry or the administration area, but really to take a look at the manufacturing industry. So the companies are called upon, the political field is called upon, the scientific field is called upon, the whole of society is called upon to make sure that we offer attractive jobs in this field, that we make sure that for young people, students, pupils, it is interesting and exciting to go into the so-called MINT study fields, because we need them, and I think this is the task that we all have to deal with. Mr. Erlach. Well, we just heard there is a shortage of skilled workers, and this affects your own company, I'm rather sure. But of course, it also offers new opportunities. So what about Jungheinrich? What do you do? Well, we all know it's really important to be an attractive company for employees, to attract the right people, and that everyone, the service technician up to the manager, really enjoys his or her work. And of course, we all want to enjoy our work. Without that, there is no passion. People will leave, and without passion, there is not no peak performance. So this is the first part, and I think we're doing quite a good job. And in the past 10 years, I think we doubled the number, and the average employee stays more than 10 years with us. This is tough. This is quite a lot of work, but it does work. And of course, our processes are being optimized. We're always working on that. There is still an enormous potential that we can tap into. So with this scarce resource of staff, that we use them in a smarter and better way. So work should be fun. And regarding our customers, well, they try to compensate the lack of workers with a higher level of automation. And let's say we have a company with 3 vehicles, 24/7 operation, and they can save 10 jobs. And in the past, ROI of the machines was the most important point, and now it's about keeping it up and running. So it is much more important to make sure that you can keep the machines up and running because you don't get the people. So there are lots of opportunities.
Opportunities was a good keyword, Mr. Hofer. Knapp is also committed to the, well, hiring skilled workers. What is your perspective on this? How can you change this lack of skilled workers, and what is your estimate on possibilities for Knapp because of the lack of skilled workers? Well, the megatrend should be that we invest in this so that we can release skilled workers and upskill them. Lots of technology is only running if we have good technicians, so that's what it is. We have to initiate all kinds of initiatives. We are also doubling our training rates at the moment. We want to create opportunities. We need consistent systems from the apprenticeship to the degree, university degree. That's my firm conviction. And we have to make this industry more attractive and set it into the limelight so it's as other companies do it together. That's definitely one big topic. And then I hope that politics will help us not to have this one-fits-all approach that they're discussing, whether we have 37, 32, whatever hours of working hours per week. There should be more incentives for these employees. They're sent into retirement and would like to continue working at a rate of 10 hours per week. And the politicians actually banning this, or they don't want this to happen, instead of recognizing that in the past it was good that someone cleared his job because he retired. Now it's bad because he's not replaceable. So we have to move away from this stupid discussion that everything's equal. Why do we punish those who want to work more? I mean, no one needs to be punished who wants to work less, but this one-fits-all solution that we are using should be reconsidered if we want to make Austria, Germany, and Switzerland more attractive. Well, Professor Fottner, you are at the source of this. Well, the skilled workers would be nice. Yes, please deliver. What's your take on the lack of skilled workers in intralogistics and countermeasures for other companies or in user companies? Well, I have to start by saying we don't only have a lack of skilled workers, we also have sort of a miscontrol of those that we put into information science. I mean, of course, information science is important, but we need all kinds of training steps. We need skilled workers just as much as we need PhD candidates. And we here at the chair have always prepared that. I mean, in addition to all our smart graduates and PhD students, we always had skilled workers as well that we looked for. You talked about attractiveness, nice word, but it's nothing that is just connected with money. Attractiveness has to do with appreciation, and here we have a societal issue, an immense one. Only certain types of work that you do are actually accepted in society or have a higher level of acceptance. We have to make clear that our entire economic system is set up that way, that we have different levels of qualification. Yes, that's true. And of course, it's super important to increase the level of education. You talked about that before, but we don't want to have professors everywhere at the end. The objective should be to have information scientists, mechanical engineers, and electricians and control engineers that just help us to perform in this value adding chain and be efficient as a society. And here we really have to specifically control this. But I'm afraid of this control process because we know whenever we did use control, we controlled too much in a certain direction. And 5 years later, we had the opposite problem. When I started studying, we were 1,000 people studying mechanical engineering in the first semester, and 200 were not even accepted. Shortly after that, we were 300 in the first semester and had this big lack of engineers. And we keep falling from one crisis to the next one. With the teachers, it's the same, but it's a common task that we are tackling together with politicians, with economists, with trainers. We have to early on involve companies. We have to make sure that the future employees and already notice that they are actually needed in certain areas. Thank you very much, Professor Fottner. Our panel discussion is coming to an end. We saw that every crisis also holds an opportunity or even several opportunities. LogiMAT offers, as we also heard, a good approach here for getting more information on the opportunities in intralogistics with the exhibitors. We also heard that it's very important when we look at the lack of skilled workers that we collaborate with others on this, that there needs to be an exchange between political decisions that are taken, academia, and also academic education in general, and the companies in intralogistics. I hope that this summit meeting of LogiMAT has given you valuable impetus and that you enjoyed following this panel discussion. I really enjoyed this panel discussion. I would like to thank Steffen Bersch, Christian Erlach, Professor Johannes Fottner, Gerald Hofer, and Andreas Grinninger for being here on stage today for discussing these things and giving us many valuable ideas and impulses. Thank you very much.